The night the joke backfired was the same night everything in that cold, glass-walled world began to crack. The billionaire CEO, Adrian Holt, known for turning boardrooms into battlegrounds, sat at the center of a long marble table surrounded by people dressed in arrogance and expensive confidence. But the air shifted when the single dad, Eli Warren, a man with tired eyes, second-hand shoes, and a heart that had been bruised far too many times, was pulled into the spotlight like some unwanted entertainment. No one in that glittering dining room knew that the very thing meant to humiliate him would become the moment that shook the billionaire more deeply than any corporate war he had ever fought. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps keep these stories alive. Adrian had invited Eli as a cruel twist of irony. Eli worked as a maintenance worker in the same firm Adrian owned. Overworked, underpaid, and raising his little daughter Lily alone, Eli spent his nights fixing pipes and repairing vents while wealthy executives breezed past him without a glance. Adrian first noticed him when Eli accidentally entered the wrong elevator, one reserved for top executives. While others mocked, Eli simply apologized and moved aside with quiet dignity. For Adrian, it sparked a curiosity he couldn't explain, a flicker he quickly buried under the weight of ego. So tonight, during a lavish dinner with investors and partners, Adrian called Eli up as a special guest, painting it as a harmless joke, a little fun to lighten the evening. But the moment Eli entered the room filled with polished suits and judgmental smirks, something tightened in Adrian's chest. Eli wasn't supposed to look so composed. He wasn't supposed to hold himself with gentle humility. He wasn't supposed to have eyes that spoke of storms survived and hopes still held. Adrian expected awkwardness, fear, stumbling. Instead, Eli stood at the end of the table with a calm breath, smoothing the wrinkles in his faded shirt, carrying himself the way someone does when they've learned not to expect kindness from anyone. Adrian smirked and told him they had a challenge: give the room your best investing advice. The guests laughed. Cameras discreetly lifted. Wine glasses clinked with cruelty. But Eli didn't flinch. He took a slow breath, remembering the night he had stayed up until sunrise reading articles on finance, not for wealth, but because he wanted to teach Lily the world didn't have to intimidate her. He remembered the dreams he once had before life hit him like a collapsing roof. And when he began to speak, the room slowly stilled. His voice was gentle but steady as he spoke not of stocks or markets or profit margins, but of people. He said the greatest investment anyone could make was in those who believed in them, even when the world didn't. He explained how he invested every spare coin into Lily's education jar, even if it meant skipping meals. He spoke of risk, not as numbers on a graph, but as the courage to keep going when everything was falling apart. He talked about long-term returns, not in money, but in memories, in love, in moments that healed rather than hurt. Eyes softened. Laughter faded. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Holt's world did not feel fully under his control. The CEO froze, literally frozen, as if something inside him cracked open. His hand, which had confidently pointed moments earlier, slowly lowered. His breath caught in a place he didn't know existed anymore. Because Eli's words weren't just advice. They were a mirror. Adrian saw the boy he once was, the kid who lost his father too young, the teenager who built walls around his heart high enough to keep out every soft thing. He had traded vulnerability for victory, empathy for dominance. And now this man, a maintenance worker with nothing but truth in his voice, had knocked the air out of him without even trying. Eli finished speaking, unaware of the storm he had stirred. Silence swallowed the room. The kind that trembles with unspoken truth. For a moment, Adrian felt stripped of every layer of power he had ever worn. He dismissed the guests early, claiming fatigue, but his eyes never stopped following Eli until he quietly walked out, disappearing back into the world of fluorescent hallways and tools. The days that followed were unsettling. Adrian found himself haunted by Eli's words. He researched Eli's life, not out of intrusion, but out of a growing ache, an ache he didn't understand. He learned of Lily, learned of the nights Eli worked overtime to pay for her asthma medication, learned of the eviction notice hanging like a shadow over their lives. Adrian's conscience twisted with something he had not felt in years. He began noticing the little things, the exhaustion Eli hid, the bruised hands, the worn-out uniform, and the unwavering kindness Eli showed to everyone, even those who overlooked him. And somewhere between board meetings and billion-dollar negotiations, Adrian made a decision that was not strategic or calculated. It was human. One evening, as Eli finished repairing a broken heating unit, Adrian approached him alone. Not as a CEO. Not as a man used to command. But as someone trying to be better than he had been. He offered Eli a position in the investment department, not as charity, but as recognition of the brilliance he had shown that night. He offered training, support, and mentorship. Eli's eyes widened with disbelief, not because he didn't feel capable, but because no one had ever looked at him and said, "You deserve more." But the real turning point came a week later, when Lily was rushed to the hospital during one of her severe asthma attacks. Eli had no car. No insurance. No way to afford the treatment she needed. Adrian arrived before Eli even knew who he had called. He stayed at the hospital the entire night, pacing outside the room as though Lily was his own blood. When the doctor explained that Lily would recover but needed ongoing medication and care, Adrian quietly paid the bill, ensuring Eli would never face that fear alone again. For the first time in his life, Adrian Holt didn't feel like a billionaire. He felt like a man rediscovering his heart. And for the first time in his life, Eli Warren felt seen. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us create more stories that bring light into the world. Before the ending, please comment below, kindness changes everything. In the months that followed, Eli rose from maintenance worker to financial analyst. His insights reshaped entire investment strategies. Adrian found himself not just a mentor, but a friend, sometimes even learning from Eli in ways money could never buy. And Lily, with her bright eyes and brave smile, became a reminder to Adrian that the world wasn't lost to him. Because sometimes, the greatest transformation doesn't happen in power, but in compassion. And sometimes, the person you try to embarrass ends up becoming the person who teaches you how to live again. And that night, the billionaire CEO who once mocked a single dad learned the one truth he had spent his entire life avoiding, that the wealth that truly mattered was the kind that could never fit into a bank account.